Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 286. Please turn to page number 286. Problem number 127 is what we are about to do. In problem 127, we are told that our rent was X% more in 98 compared to 97. They go on to tell us that in 99 it was Y%, the rent was Y% less in 99 compared to 98. The question simply is, did our rent go up over the 2-year period? That's all it is. Did our rent go up over the 2-year period? Let's see what they tell us. In the first statement they tell us that X is more than Y. In other words, this percentage amount is more, percentage amount of increase is more than the percentage drop in Y. Let's find out what that actually tells us. So here's our 1997, which is our base period. Let's pretend that our rent was $100 to begin with. $100 to begin with. Increase it by 25%. In other words, our X is 25. If we increase it by 25%, in 1998, our rent will become $125. Simple enough, which is why we started out at a base of 125. Now what would happen? So our X is 25. What would happen now? Now whether or not our rent goes up overall over a 2-year period depends on how large the percentage drop is from 98 to 99. For example, a drop of 20%, this is scenario 1. A drop of 20%, in other words, Y is 20. We are still meeting the conditions. Y is 20, which means 25 is more than 20. A drop of 20%, what is 20% of 125? 20% of 125, 10% of 125, we know, is 12.5. Therefore, 20% is twice as much, which is $25. So our rent was $125 to begin with. Our rent was $125 in 98. It drops by 20%, which represents a drop of $25. Our rent at the beginning of 1999 would be $100. $100 is what we started out with. So the question was, did the rent go up from 1999 to 97? The answer here is no. Rent did not go up. Over the 2-year period, we ended up where we started with. We started with a rent of $100. It went up by 25%, making it $125. An increase of 25% and then a following decrease in 20% brings it back to where we started. So our rent did not go up. Our rent in 1999 is exactly the same as what it was in 97. That's one possibility. But what if the rent, instead of dropping by 20%, what if the rent had dropped by something less than 20%? Drop of, let's say, 10%. So here the answer is there is no change. No change here. The rent did not change at all. I'm going to show you 3 scenarios. Here there is no change. A drop of 10% would have meant our rent was $125. A drop of 10% would have meant that the rent in 1999 would be 10% less than 125, which is $12.50 less than 125, which will make it $112.50. So again, here we see an increase of $12.50 in rent. Did the rent go up? The answer here is yes. The answer here was no. Or maybe the rent dropped by something between, even though we don't have to do the third scenario, obviously, we have already done the job. Here, did the rent go up here? The answer is no. Did the rent go up here? The answer is yes. We can't tell. We cannot tell. First statement by itself is no good. But what I'm trying to make you understand is there is also a possibility where the rent may actually have gone down. As long as the rent drops by something between 20% and 25%, if the rent drops by more than 20%, but less than 25%, it has to be less than 25% because X has to be more than Y, that's the condition. So if the rent drops by, let's say, 22%, here the rent will be down. Here there was an increase. Here it is down. Here it stayed the same. So the first statement does no good. The first statement does no good. Since the first statement by itself is not sufficient, A, D, B, C, E. Since the first statement by itself is not sufficient, answer cannot be A or D. It would have to be either B, C, or E. Let's look at second statement, shall we? When we do the problems here, obviously we're not doing it as we would in the real exam because we take our time. And of course in the real exam we wouldn't waste our time doing a third scenario which wasn't necessary. Because we are looking for contradiction. We found the contradiction. In the first case, there was no change in rent. In the second case, the rent actually did increase because it dropped by, it increased by 25%, but then it went down by only 10%. In which case, it did go up overall. So that's all there is. Let's look at second statement. In the second statement, they tell us. That x times y over 100 is less than x minus y. Now, before we actually start this, jump into this thing, I just want to warn you that this is only for those people who are very good at algebra, who are very conversant at algebra, who are very skilled at algebra. Algebra is something that you're not very good at. Then the best thing for you to do is to choose your battles. You're not going to win all the battles. Choose your battles, and there are some battles you're simply going to have to walk away. You've done as much as you could do. You raised your R to 1 out of 3. Just pick one answer choice and move on with life. Okay? Don't fret. Don't be overly concerned with it. You've done what you can. You understand? Always remember what Kenny Roger advised us. For those of you who know who Kenny Roger is, you must know when to hold and when to fold. So if you're not very good at algebra, it is time to fold and walk away from the table. Just pick one answer choice and move on. Let's do. This is going to be quite hairy. This is not going to be pleasant. I need the room. I need a lot of room, so we're going to start from the very top. So in 1997, our rent was, let's pretend our rent was R dollars. In 98, it goes up by X%. So it's R to begin with, X% X over 100 times R, or R times 1 plus X over 100. Then we are told that it goes down. In 1999, it goes down by Y%. What is Y% of this amount? Y% of this amount is, so this is the amount that we start out with, which is R times 1 plus X over Y, and it goes down by Y%, Y over 100, of the same amount, R times 1 over X plus 100. Let's take out this entire thing common. We see here R times 1 plus 1 over X. So we're going to take it out common. R times 1 plus X over 100. And here we're left with only 1. And here we're left with 1 over Y. Now I'm not explaining everything here, every excruciating detail here, because if that's what I have to do, then as I said, don't worry about it. You won't have the time in the real exam. Don't agonize over it. It's only going to frustrate you and it's only going to make you tired. Just pick one and move on. This is it. So now the question is the original rent that we started out with, is the rent that we started out with less than this amount? Because this is our final rent. This is our final rent. So our asking is R less than this quantity is same as saying is the final rent more than the original rent, which is what they want to know. Let's do it on the top. Let's do it on the top. Erase everything that we don't need here. I shouldn't have put that thing around it. So let's do it here. Oh, we see R on both sides of the inequality. R appears on both sides. Let's do it here. R times 1 plus x over 100 times 1 minus x over, rather y over 100. Y over 100 is this quantity greater than R? Greater than R. I've just switched the order, that's all. R appears on both sides of the inequality, and since R is a positive quantity, see, this is the part I don't want to have to explain. If I have to explain everything here, then as I said, just skip it. Since R appears on both sides of the inequality, and since we know R is positive because R is the amount of rent, since R appears on both sides, we can divide both sides of the inequality, get rid of it. So now the question is this quantity greater than 1? Well, let's find out. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times y over 100 is going to be negative y over 100 because it's got negative in front of it. And then we have x over 100 times 1, which is going to be x over 100. And then we have x over 100 times y over 100, again with a negative sign. So negative x over 100 times y over 100. And the question is this quantity greater than 1? Again, 1 appears on both sides of the inequality. We can subtract 1 from both sides. So this one drops out and that one drops out. Let's bring this quantity on the other side. So we end up with x over 100 plus, or rather minus, you see, x over 100 minus y over 100. And let's bring this thing on the other side. And we end up with x times y over 100 times 100. Let's take the common denominator of the two here. It's x over 100 minus y over 100, which is same as x minus y over 100, which is same as x minus y over 100. I see 100 in the denominator here, I see 100 in the denominator here. Let's multiply both sides of the inequality by 100. And we can drop out this 100. And now I'm going to erase the baby part. We're not going to show the baby steps. We didn't have to show this part. We just understand that by multiplying both sides of the inequality by 100, this 100 will drop out. And what are we left with? We are left with x minus y is greater than x times y. This is the question mark for us. This is what we need to know. If this is true, then the final rent has to be more than the original rent. The question was, did the rent go up? The rent will go up, or rather rent will have gone up. Rent will have gone up if this condition holds. If the difference between the percentage change, original percentage change and the new percentage change, if that difference is greater than their product, then the rent over the 2-year period will have gone up. How do we know if this is true? Well, because they tell us. This is our second statement. They tell us this is the second statement. This is exactly what they tell us in the second statement. In the second statement they tell us that x minus y is less than x over y times 100. I left out this 100, you see, times 100. I left out that 100. We only dropped out 100. I just noticed it because as I was looking at the second statement. So they tell us this. Is this true? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. To which the question would be, how the hell do you know? Well, because they tell me that. It says in the book right there, second statement, that's what it says. It tells me that this statement is holds. And therefore we know. Therefore second statement does the job. This ugly looking, hairy looking statement that they gave us, at the end turns out, that's exactly what it boils down to, what we needed. Second statement by itself does the job, and therefore the answer is B. That's it. I will see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.